Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is plaid. 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 So plaid has a very interesting spelling. There's an AI in there, but it's pronounced plaid. So plaid is a pattern that's usually made of squares and stripes and kind of one main color. So maybe you know the traditional patterns and the traditional clothing in Scottish culture from Scotland. So lots of the skirts and maybe even scarves and other garments use plaid. So a main base color like red or green, and then some contrast colors with squares and stripes in colors like yellow and black and white. Here's an example expression. Plaid miniskirt. Plaid miniskirt. Plaid miniskirt. Wavy. 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 Wavy is an adjective. Wavy refers to something that is not straight, but something that has some curve to it. So it goes up and down. Here's an example. Wavy hair. Wavy hair. Wavy hair. Identification. 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 Identification refers to a document that shows you are the person you say you are. So, for example, a passport is identification, or a driver's license is identification. You might have a special kind in your country. Here's an example sentence. Do you have identification? Do you have identification? Do you have identification? Why? 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 Why is a very common question word. Other ways to say why are how come or for what reason. Here's an example. Why is he in a bad mood today? Why is he in a bad mood today? Why is he in a bad mood today? How? 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 How is another very, very common question word. How refers to the method of doing something. We can think of this as meaning by what method or in what way. Here's an example. How do you use this? How do you use this? How do you use this? When? 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 When is yet another very common question word. This is a question about time. We use this to ask at what time something will or will not happen. Here's an example. When the rooster crows, I will wake up. When the rooster crows, I'll wake up. When the rooster crows, I will wake up. Where? 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 Another common question word, where, is a question word we use for location or for place. This can mean at what location or at what place. Here's an example. What time is it where you live? What time is it where you live? What time is it where you live? What? 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 Maybe the most common question word, what, refers to an object. It can also be used to refer to a concept. We can use it in this example expression to mean, what's the purpose of this? The example is, what for? What for? What for? Who? 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 Who is another very common question word. Who is used when we want to ask about a person. Which person is another way to understand the word who. Here's an example. Who is coming to dinner tomorrow night? Who is coming to dinner tomorrow night? Who is coming to dinner tomorrow night? What kind? What kind? What kind? The expression what kind is used to ask about the type or the category of something. When we are choosing from a few options, like flavors at a restaurant, for example, we can ask the question what kind to mean which type or which category do you like. Here's an example. What kind of car are you going to buy this year? What kind of car are you going to buy this year? What kind of car are you going to buy this year? Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the word that refers to a common pattern found in countries like Scotland with a base color and many contrast stripes and squares? Plaid. Plaid. And how to say something that is not straight but that has many ups and downs? Wavy. Wavy. What about the word that refers to a document that proves that you are the person you say you are, like a passport or a driver's license? Identification. Identification. Do you remember how to say the word that means for what purpose or how come? Why? Why? Let's try the word that refers to a method. We ask this question word when we want to know by what method or in what way. How? How? What about the question word that refers to time? In situations where you want to ask, what time does something happen, you can use this word. When? When? Now, let's see if you remember how to say the question word that's about place. When you want to ask in what location or at what place, you use this word. Where? Where? Another one. What about the question word that we use to ask about an object or a concept? What? What? Do you remember how to say the question word that we use when we want to ask about people? Who? Who? And finally, do you remember how to say the expression that we use when we want to ask about a type or category of something, like when we make a choice? What kind? What kind? Well done! See you next time. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up is a very common greeting in English. We use it in the same way as hello. It's super, super casual. What's up also has another meaning, and we usually see this with. This is what's up with, and then some kind of noun phrase, which means please explain that to me. So here's an example of this. What's up with that new haircut? What's up with that new haircut? What's up with that new haircut? Round, round, round. Round is an adjective. It describes things like circles and spheres. Something that has this shape is considered round. So here's an example. The tires on the car are round. The tires on the car are round. The tires on the car are round. Big, big, big. Big is an adjective. Big is the opposite of small. Other words that mean the same thing as big are huge or large. Here's an example. He lives in a big house. He lives in a big house. He lives in a big house. Dense, dense, dense. Dense is an adjective, which means that there are a lot of something inside a space. So we use the word dense when we talk about locations, like cities, for example. A place is dense when it has lots and lots of people inside one small location. Here's another example. The forest was too dense to walk through. The forest was too dense to walk through. The forest was too dense to walk through. Vast, vast, vast. Vast is an adjective. It means something that is very wide or very broad. We can use this to talk about locations, like places, geographic places, and we can also use this to talk about concepts. Here's an example. Many areas north of the Arctic Circle are vast wastelands. Many areas north of the Arctic Circle are vast wastelands. Many areas north of the Arctic Circle are vast wastelands. Square, square, square. Square is an interesting word. It can be a noun or an adjective. So as a noun, it refers to this shape with 4 sides on it. And something that has this shape is referred to something that is square-shaped. The word square can also be used to talk about physical locations, as in this example. The town square is actually a square shape. The town square is actually a square shape. The town square is actually a square shape. Course, course, course. Coarse is an adjective. It's something that is very rough. We can use this to talk about materials. We can use this to talk about things like our skin or our hair as well. It's the opposite of smooth. Here's an example. We took off the paint with coarse sandpaper. We took off the paint with coarse sandpaper. We took off the paint with coarse sandpaper. Fine, fine, fine. Fine can have a few different meanings, but for this lesson, let's look at the meaning that means something that is very, very small or very, very thin. When someone has fine hair, for example, their hair is very, very thin, maybe easy to break. When some other kinds of materials are very, very fine, it means they are very, very small in size. Here's another example. Fine powder. Fine powder. Fine powder. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Heavy is an adjective. It means something that has a lot of weight, something that is difficult to carry. This is the opposite of something that is light. Here's an example. It's very big, but it's not heavy. It's very big, but it's not heavy. It's very big, but it's not heavy. Long, long, long. The word long is the opposite of short. It refers to something that has a big length. Here's an example. For long distances, it is faster to send letters by airmail. For long distances, it is faster to send letters by airmail. For long distances, it is faster to send letters by airmail. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the casual greeting that means the same thing as hello, that can also be used to ask for an explanation for something? What's up? What's up? And how to say the adjective that describes the shape of a circle. Round. Round. What about the adjective that is the opposite of small? It means large or huge. Big. Big. Do you remember how to say the adjective that means a place or a location where there are lots of something inside a space? Dense. Dense. Let's try the adjective that means that something is very wide or very broad. It could be a location or a concept. Vast. Vast. What about the word that refers to a shape that has 4 sides? Square. Square. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the adjective that is the opposite of smooth. It refers to something that is rough. Coarse. Coarse. Another one. What about the adjective that means materials that are very, very small? Or when we talk about hair being this adjective, it means it's very, very thin. Fine. Fine. Do you remember how to say the word that means that something has a lot of weight? This is the opposite of light. Heavy. Heavy. And finally, do you remember how to say the adjective that means the opposite of short? It's something that has a big length. Long. Long. Well done. See you next time. Bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is cube. 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 A cube is a square, but in 3 dimensions. So you probably know the 4-sided shape that is a square. When we create this in 3 dimensions, it becomes what is called a cube. Here's an example. A cube is a 3-dimensional object with 6 sides. A cube is a 3-dimensional object with 6 sides. A cube is a 3-dimensional object with 6 sides. Present. 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 Present can have a couple of different meanings, but for this lesson, let's take a look at just one. This present refers to the word we use for gifts when we want to give someone something, like for their birthday, for a holiday, an anniversary. We give them a present. Here's an example. Scotch tape is perfect for wrapping presents. Scotch tape is perfect for wrapping presents. Scotch tape is perfect for wrapping presents. Customer. 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 A customer is someone who comes to a shop or comes to a store of some kind to get something, to get a service, to buy a product, to ask for more information. So when you go shopping, you are a customer. Here's an example. The customer is buying groceries with a credit card. The customer is buying groceries with a credit card. The customer is buying groceries with a credit card. Cost. 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 Cost can be used as both a noun and as a verb. Today, let's look at the noun form. The cost of something means how much money is required in order to get something or in order to do something. So, for example, you might have the cost of a plane ticket. Sometimes it means the same thing as price, and in other situations, it means how much money is required in order to, operate your business. Here's another example. Delivery cost. Delivery cost. Delivery cost. Discount. 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 Discount is another word that can be either a noun or a verb. A discount means a reduced price on something. So when we go shopping and we see a sale, that's a discount, a type of discount, like 10% off or 50% off. Here's an example sentence. Can you give me a discount? Can you give me a discount? Can you give me a discount? Cash. 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 Cash means physical money. So when we are shopping and we don't want to use a credit card or electronic payment or something like that, we want to give the other person bills and coins to pay for something, that's called cash. Here's an example. I am going to pay for my dinner with cash. I'm going to pay for my dinner with cash. I am going to pay for my dinner with cash. Spend money. Spend money. Spend money. To spend money means to use your money to buy products, to buy goods, to buy services. So when we spend money, we use it to get things. Here's an example. He just doesn't want to spend money. He just doesn't want to spend money. He just doesn't want to spend money. Clothing store. Clothing store. Clothing store. A clothing store is a store specifically for buying clothes. If you want to get shirts, socks, pants, whatever, you can go to a clothing store to get just those kinds of items. Here's an example. I bought a new shirt at the clothing store. I bought a new shirt at the clothing store. I bought a new shirt at the clothing store. Department store. Department store. Department store. A department store is usually a very large building, and there are many small stores inside the department store. You might find perfume shops, you might find clothing stores, there might be small food stores or specialty stores as well. A department store has many different kinds of shops inside. Here's an example. You can find anything at a department store. You can find anything at a department store. You can find anything at a department store. Boutique. 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 A boutique is a kind of store or maybe even a hotel or service, perhaps even restaurant, that is very specialized in something. So for example, if you go to a boutique soap store, perhaps they have very specialized ingredients for their products. Or a boutique hotel might have a very specialized feel in their rooms. So boutiques are generally very specialized and often a little more expensive. Here's an example. A boutique usually specializes in a small range of products. A boutique usually specializes in a small range of products. A boutique usually specializes in a small range of products. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the word that means a square but in 3 dimensions? Cube. Cube. And how to say another word for gift, like you give someone on their birthday or for a holiday? Present. Present. What about the word that means the person who comes to a store to use their money to buy products or goods? Customer. Customer. Do you remember how to say the word that means the price of something or the amount of money required to get something? Cost. Cost. Let's try the word that refers to a bargain or a sale or a reduction in price. Discount. Discount. What about the word for the money that is physical, like bills and coins? Cash. Cash. Now let's see if you remember the expression we use when we say we want to use the finances that we have available, when we want to buy things or go shopping. Spend money. Spend money. Another one. What about the place you go to buy things like shirts, pants, socks, and so on? Clothing store. Clothing store. Do you remember how to say the place that has a lot of small shops inside it, usually with many floors and lots of different types of stores? Department store. Department store. And finally, do you remember how to say the type of store or the type of service that is very, very specialized in what they offer? Boutique. Boutique. Well done! See you next time. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is shoe store. Shoe store. Shoe store. A shoe store is a specific kind of store where you can go to buy shoes. Shoe stores usually sell shoes of different kinds, though you might find a sports shoe store and a formal shoe store, and they often sell things like socks and stockings as well. Here's an example. The woman is shopping for shoes at the shoe store. The woman is shopping for shoes at the shoe store. The woman is shopping for shoes at the shoe store. Jewelry store. Jewelry store. Jewelry store. A jewelry store is a shop that sells things like necklaces, rings, bracelets, earrings, pretty accessories that are usually worn by women, but occasionally by men as well. Here's an example. We bought our wedding rings at the jewelry store. We bought our wedding rings at the jewelry store. We bought our wedding rings at the jewelry store. Mall, mall, mall. A mall is a shopping center, sometimes inside, sometimes outside. It's usually one, maybe two floors that have many different shops inside. Here's an example. There are a large variety of stores at the mall. There are a large variety of stores at the mall. There are a large variety of stores at the mall. Sample, sample, sample. Sample as a noun means something like a taste or a test of something bigger. So when you're not sure if you want to buy something, like food, for example, you can try a sample piece of that, a small piece of that, to see if you like it or not. Here's an example. Show me a sample of what you're trying to sell me. Show me a sample of what you're trying to sell me. Show me a sample of what you're trying to sell me. Text, text, text. Text can be both a noun and a verb. Let's talk about the verb form in this lesson. To text means to write a text message on your phone. So here's an example. It's dangerous to text while you drive. It is dangerous to text while you drive. It is dangerous to text while you drive. Internet cafe. Internet cafe. Internet cafe. An internet cafe is a place you can go to access the internet. Internet cafes usually, of course, have fast internet access and usually some soft drinks, coffee, maybe a few things to read, and comfortable chairs to use. Here's an example sentence. Keep in touch with friends on the web at an internet cafe. Keep in touch with friends on the web at an internet cafe. Keep in touch with friends on the web at an internet cafe. Wireless, wireless, wireless. Wireless is an adjective. It means something that does not have a wire. We usually use this word when we talk about electronics, like phones and computers, maybe microphones as well, when we talk about our internet connection. So something that usually has to have a wire to create a connection that does not have a wire is called a wireless version of that thing. Here's an example sentence. I use a wireless connection when I work in a coffee shop. I use a wireless connection when I work in a coffee shop. I use a wireless connection when I work in a coffee shop. Blog, blog, blog. A blog is a place online, a website online, where someone can write their opinions, can share their ideas about topics. Blogs usually look like articles, but people might include pictures and videos, perhaps even interviews, to support their ideas. Here's an example. People can write a blog about anything they want to. People can write a blog about anything they want to. People can write a blog about anything they want to. Social networking site. Social networking site. Social networking site. A social networking site is a site like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and so on. These are websites where lots and lots of people can come together around the world to share ideas, pictures, videos, and so on. So social networking sites are places where you can go to socialize and create networks. Here's an example. Facebook and MySpace are social networking sites. Facebook and MySpace are social networking sites. Facebook and MySpace are social networking sites. Search engine. Search engine. Search engine. A search engine is a tool you can use to search the internet for information. Very popular search engines include Google, perhaps even Yahoo. There's another one that's called Bing. There are many different search engines, but Google is probably the most popular. Here's an example sentence. The Google search engine is fast and detailed. The Google search engine is fast and detailed. The Google search engine is fast and detailed. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the name of the place where you can buy things like shoes, socks, stockings, and so on? Shoe store. Shoe store. And how to say the kind of shop where you can buy things like necklaces, bracelets, rings, and earrings? Jewelry store. Jewelry store. What about the kind of shopping location where there are usually many shops lined in a row on maybe one floor or perhaps two floors? Mall. Mall. Do you remember how to say the word that means a small taste or a small test of some other product? Sample. Sample. Let's try the verb that means to write a message to someone on your phone. Text. Text. What about the expression for the type of cafe you can go to access the internet? Internet cafe. Internet cafe. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the adjective that means a connection that you don't need a wire for. Wireless. Wireless. Another one. What about the kind of website that people use to write their ideas, and they can be supported with pictures and videos and interviews as well? Blog. Blog. Do you remember how to say the expression that refers to websites like Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, Twitter, and so on? Social networking site. Social networking site. And finally, do you remember how to say the type of service that we use to search for information on the internet? Search engine. Search engine. Well done! See you next time. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is internet access. Internet access. Internet access. Internet access refers to the connection from our device to the internet. So to have internet access means that you are able to access information online. Here's an example. I have internet access at work, home, and on the road. I have internet access at work, home, and on the road. I have internet access at work, home, and on the road. IP phone. IP phone. IP phone. IP stands for Internet Protocol. Internet Protocol phones are not really used so much in the US these days, but depending on your country and what kind of technology you use at your work or your school, you might see these kinds of phones. They have an internet connection. Here's an example. With an adapter, I can use my old phone as an IP phone over the internet. With an adapter, I can use my old phone as an IP phone over the internet. With an adapter, I can use my old phone as an IP phone over the internet. Public phone. Public phone. Public phone. A public phone is a phone that anyone in a city can use. You can find public phones usually at the corners of streets or on the sides of streets. You might also see them in places like train stations and bus stations. Usually, you have to pay some money to use a public phone. Here's an example. There are public phones in the airport. There are public phones in the airport. There are public phones in the airport. Local phone call. Local phone call. Local phone call. A local phone call is a phone call to a number that is close to the location where you are making the call from. Usually inside your country is considered a local phone call. Here's an example. I can make free local phone calls within my community on my home phone. I can make free local phone calls within my community on my home phone. I can make free local phone calls within my community on my home phone. Dial. 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 Dial can have a couple different uses, but today I want to talk about the verb use of dial. To dial means to push the numbers, usually on a phone that we use today. In old phones, it could also mean turning the rotary on a phone to choose a number. Basically, it means choosing a number on the phone. Here's an example. Dial 9 to get an outside line. Dial 9 to get an outside line. Dial 9 to get an outside line. Phone number. Phone number. Phone number. A phone number is the series of numbers that is connected to a phone. So when you want to call someone or call a company, you look for their phone number. Here's an example. The phone number is wrong. The phone number is wrong. The phone number is wrong. Operator. 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 Operator is a little bit of an old-fashioned word. It means the person who is working at the call center or the phone center. It could mean today someone who works at like a customer service center that connects you with someone else. Here's an example. The operator is talking with a customer. The operator is talking with a customer. The operator is talking with a customer. Long-distance call. Long-distance call. Long-distance call. A long-distance call is kind of the opposite of a local call. A long-distance call means you are calling someone who is very far away, like in another country, for example. These usually cost money. Here's an example. If you call someone out of town, it's usually a long-distance call. If you call someone out of town, it is usually a long-distance call. If you call someone out of town, it is usually a long-distance call. Evening. 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 Evening is the time between the afternoon and the night, usually from around 5 o'clock to perhaps 9 o'clock or so. Here's an example. After dinner, we enjoy our evening. After dinner, we enjoy our evening. After dinner, we enjoy our evening. Morning. 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 Morning refers to the time of day when the sun is coming up. So this could be from very early, maybe 5 o'clock or so, until usually about 11 o'clock or so, just before noon. Here's an example. Buses are very crowded in the morning. Buses are very crowded in the morning. Buses are very crowded in the morning. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the expression that means that you can get information online? Internet access. Internet access. And how to say the kind of old-fashioned phone that you might see from time to time that can connect to the internet. IP phone. IP phone. What about the expression that means a type of phone that anyone in the community can use for a little bit of money? Public phone. Public phone. Do you remember how to say the expression for a phone call to someone who is pretty close to you? Local phone call. Local phone call. Let's try the verb that means to choose a number on the phone. Dial. Dial. What about the expression that means the numbers that are assigned to a calling device? Phone number. Phone number. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the customer service person who might be working at a place like a call center. Operator. Operator. Another one. What about the type of phone call to someone who lives very far away from you, like in another country? Long-distance call. Long-distance call. Do you remember how to say the time of day from about 5 o'clock to perhaps 8 or 9 p.m.? Evening. Evening. And finally, do you remember how to talk about the first part of the day when the sun comes up from perhaps about 5 a.m. to maybe 11? Morning. Morning. Well done. See you next time. Bye. Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is all day. All day. All day. All day is an expression that we use to talk about something that happens or a condition that continues for one day, from morning until we wake up until the end of the day at night. Here's an example. I could play with my children all day long. I could play with my children all day long. I could play with my children all day long. Nighttime. 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 Nighttime refers usually just to the time of day when it is dark outside, usually when we are asleep. So there's not a specific time for nighttime. It's usually just when it's dark and quiet. Here's an example. It's already nighttime. It's already nighttime. It's already nighttime. Daytime. 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 Daytime is like the opposite of nighttime. It's the time when the sun is out and we can see things. Usually, this is the time when we go to work and school and so on. Here's an example. I just can't sleep during the daytime. I just can't sleep during the daytime. I just can't sleep during the daytime. After. 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 After is a word that we use to help us show the sequence of events. So when one thing happens, when we want to describe the next thing that occurs, we can use the word after to express that. Here's an example. He called her mother after the class was over. He called her mother after the class was over. He called her mother after the class was over. From now on. From now on. From now on. From now on is an expression that can also mean the same as starting now or from this point forward. So when we want to talk about a change or something new that is happening, we can talk about that with the expression from now on. Here's an example. Computers will be in our lives from now on. Computers will be in our lives from now on. Computers will be in our lives from now on. Before. 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 Before, like after, helps us to express the sequence of actions. So when we want to talk about an action and something that happened just prior to that action, we can use before to express that. Here's an example. I eat breakfast every morning before I leave for work. I eat breakfast every morning before I leave for work. I eat breakfast every morning before I leave for work. Now. 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 Now refers to this moment, the present, the current time. Here's an example. What do you want to do now? What do you want to do now? What do you want to do now? Often. 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 Often means regularly. We use it to talk about our actions or our activities that we do pretty regularly, things that we do usually. Here's an example. He often goes to town by bicycle on Sunday. He often goes to town by bicycle on Sunday. He often goes to town by bicycle on Sunday. Usually. 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 Usually expresses a kind of habit. It's something that we often do, but in a certain way. So we use this word to talk about the things that we do as like regular parts of our schedule. Here's an example. I don't usually eat breakfast. I don't usually eat breakfast. I don't usually eat breakfast. Winter. 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 Winter is the cold season. So depending on your country and where you are in the world, winter might be at a different time of the year. But in some countries, you might experience snow and very low temperatures. Here's an example. Winter is the season of shortest days and coldest temperatures. Winter is the season of shortest days and coldest temperatures. Winter is the season of shortest days and coldest temperatures. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the expression that means an action or an activity that you do from the morning until the night? All day. All day. And how to say the time of day when it's dark outside. Nighttime. Nighttime. What about the time of day when the sun is out? Daytime. Daytime. Do you remember how to say the word that describes sequences? When we want to talk about something that happens next, we say it happens After. After. Let's try the expression that can mean something like starting now or from this point forward. From now on. From now on. What about the word that we can use to talk about sequences, but when we want to talk about an action that happens prior to another action? Before. Before. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the word that means the current time or the present. Now. Now. Another one. What about the word that means something that you usually do or that you regularly do? Often. Often. Do you remember how to say the word that describes something that you do as a habit or part of your regular schedule? Usually. Usually. And finally, do you remember the word for the coldest time of year this season? Winter. Winter. Well done. See you next time. Bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is summer. 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 Summer is the hottest season of the year. In the northern hemisphere of the world, summer usually is from about July to maybe about September or so. Here's an example sentence. Summer is the time of family vacations and warm weather. Summer is the time of family vacations and warm weather. Summer is the time of family vacations and warm weather. Spring. 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 Spring is the season before summer. Spring is the season that comes after winter. It's usually a little bit rainy and maybe when flowers start to bloom and new animals are born. Here's an example. Renewal and rebirth are the elements of spring. Renewal and rebirth are the elements of spring. Renewal and rebirth are the elements of spring. Fall. 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 Fall is the season after summer and before winter. It's when it starts to get a little bit colder. You might see colors coming in on plants like oranges and yellows. Here's an example. It's already fall, but it's still warm these days. It's already fall, but it's still warm these days. It's already fall, but it's still warm these days. Heavy rain. Heavy rain. Heavy rain. Heavy rain is just like regular rain, but heavy rain means there's a lot of rain, and it falls very, very quickly usually. So it might be dangerous to go outside because of floods or other problems caused by such intense rain. Here's an example. This heavy rain could cause flash flooding. This heavy rain could cause flash flooding. This heavy rain could cause flash flooding. Freeze. 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 Freeze can be used as a noun and as a verb. To freeze something means to make it so cold that it becomes ice. When we talk about it as a noun, it means a condition where things can become icy. Here's an example. Some plants will die if there is a freeze tonight. Some plants will die if there is a freeze tonight. Some plants will die if there is a freeze tonight. Rainbow. 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 A rainbow is a beautiful natural phenomenon that happens usually after some rain. So after the rain has fallen, after the rain has stopped usually, you can see a lot of colors in the sky in this kind of shape: red, green, blue, yellow, and so on. So you might see this after the rain. It's called a rainbow. Here's an example. After the rain, you may see a rainbow. After the rain, you may see a rainbow. After the rain, you may see a rainbow. Lightning. 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 Lightning is something that happens during a storm. So there are usually two parts to a storm. There's the thunder, which is the sound, and lightning, which is the sharp crack of light that you see in the sky. So lightning refers to those light streaks that you sometimes see in very big storms. Here's an example. Flashes of lightning can be beautiful but are very dangerous. Flashes of lightning can be beautiful but are very dangerous. Flashes of lightning can be beautiful but are very dangerous. Clear sky. Clear sky. Clear sky. A clear sky is a sky that doesn't have clouds in it, or there are very, very few clouds in the sky. We can see very easily, there's no visibility problems, so usually on a very sunny day, there is clear sky. Here's an example. There was a clear sky today. There was a clear sky today. There was a clear sky today. Shower. 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 Shower has a couple different uses. We can use it, of course, to talk about cleaning our body, as in to take a shower, and we can use it to talk about the weather. So when we talk about just short periods of rain, we often call them showers. Here's an example. April showers bring May flowers. April showers bring May flowers. April showers bring May flowers. Drizzle. 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 Drizzle can be used as a noun and as a verb. As a verb, it means to put something, usually a liquid, a little bit on top of something else. As a noun, when we use it to talk about the weather, it means just a little bit of rain. So a very, very light rain for a short period. Here's an example. A drizzle is a very fine light rain. A drizzle is a very fine light rain. A drizzle is a very fine light rain. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the name of the hottest season of the year? Summer. Summer. And how to say the name of the season where there's often a little bit of rain, but plants come into bloom again? Spring. Spring. What about the season that comes after summer, when the colors start to emerge in oranges and yellows and reds? Fall. Fall. Do you remember how to say the expression that means a lot of rain or very, very intense rain? Heavy rain. Heavy rain. Let's try the word that means a condition so cold that things can turn into ice. Freeze. Freeze. What about the word we use to express the colorful natural phenomenon that sometimes happens after rain? Rainbow. Rainbow. Now, let's see if you remember how to talk about those beautiful but dangerous streaks of light you sometimes see in the sky during a storm. Lightning. Lightning. Another one. What about the expression that means a sky with no clouds, with just beautiful visibility? Clear sky. Clear sky. Do you remember how to say the word for a short period of rain? Shower. Shower. And finally, do you remember how to say just a little bit of rain, maybe for a short period only? Drizzle. Drizzle. Well done. See you next time. Bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is humidity. 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 Humidity is how we measure the level of moisture in the air. So in, for example, tropical places, there is high humidity. In a desert, there is low humidity. Here's an example. With low humidity, the air feels dry. With low humidity, the air feels dry. With low humidity, the air feels dry. Wind. 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 Wind refers to air that is blowing past us in everyday life. When the air is not moving, it's just air. But when it's moving, especially a little bit in a strong way, we call it wind. Here's an example. The wind is really strong. The wind is really strong. The wind is really strong. Sleet. 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 Sleet is a kind of unusual type of weather. Sleet is like rain together with snow, so it's quite cold, and it's often a little bit painful if it hits you, because the snow and the rain kind of mix together, and in the cold, it becomes very, very hard sometimes, so this can be somewhat painful. Here's an example. Sleet, freezing raindrops, stings when it hits bare skin. Sleet, freezing raindrops, stings when it hits bare skin. Sleet, freezing raindrops, stings when it hits bare skin. Ice over. Ice over. Ice over. To ice over or to become iced over refers usually to a road or perhaps another kind of geographic feature, like, for example, maybe a bridge or a tunnel perhaps, that is affected by ice. It's covered in ice, and this usually is about a dangerous condition. Here's an example. Bridges will ice over before the rest of the roadway. Bridges will ice over before the rest of the roadway. Bridges will ice over before the rest of the roadway. Thunder. 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 Thunder is one half of the really, really cool things that happen during storms. Thunder refers to the sounds we hear in storms, the really big booming sounds. Lightning is the light, thunder is the sound. Here's an example. Thunder is the sound of lightning expanding the air it passes through. Thunder is the sound of lightning expanding the air it passes through. Thunder is the sound of lightning expanding the air it passes through. Muggy. 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 Muggy is an adjective. We use muggy to express how we feel, especially when we are in places of very high humidity. So it can feel like the air is weighing on us. It feels like there's a lot of moisture in the air, and it can feel uncomfortable sometimes. That's what muggy describes. Here's an example. In high humidity, the air feels muggy. In high humidity, the air feels muggy. In high humidity, the air feels muggy. Below freezing. Below freezing. Below freezing. This expression refers to a temperature level. So when the temperature is below freezing, it is below the degree where ice can be made. It is below the freezing level. So for example, if you use Celsius, that is 0. So below 0 means it's below freezing. Here's an example. Wet roads can ice over when the temperature falls below freezing. Wet roads can ice over when the temperature falls below freezing. Wet roads can ice over when the temperature falls below freezing. Wind chill. Wind chill. Wind chill. Wind chill is a very interesting kind of extra measurement. So we have the regular temperature for the day, but on very windy days, strong winds can make it seem even colder than the actual temperature. So wind chill is a measurement of how much the wind can make us feel cold or chilly. Here's an example. Wind chill is how cold it really feels outside. Wind chill is how cold it really feels outside. Wind chill is how cold it really feels outside. Below zero. Below zero. Below zero. So this is another expression that we use to talk about cold temperatures. So in Celsius, 0 marks the freezing point, but if you use Fahrenheit, 0 doesn't mark the freezing point. So when we say below 0, we can express that it's below 0 Celsius in countries that use Celsius. If you are in a country that uses Fahrenheit, you can use that to talk about something that's very cold. The point is, below 0 marks a temperature that is below 0 degrees in whichever kind of system you use. Here's an example. Water will freeze when the temperature falls below 0 degrees Celsius. Water will freeze when the temperature falls below 0 degrees Celsius. Water will freeze when the temperature falls below 0 degrees Celsius. Clear up. Clear up. Clear up. To clear up can refer to weather, and it can also refer to conditions, but for today, let's talk about the weather. When a weather condition clears up, it's like this storm or some kind of negative weather condition that was there for a long time slowly goes away. So if the rain has been falling, but it slowly stops, we can describe that with clear up. Here's an example. I'm hoping for the weather to clear up so we can go on our picnic. I'm hoping for the weather to clear up so we can go on our picnic. I am hoping for the weather to clear up so we can go on our picnic. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the word that is a measurement of the moisture in the air? Humidity. Humidity. And how to say the air that's moving around us, but especially in a really strong way. Wind. Wind. What about the word that refers to a mixture of rain and snow? It can sometimes be hard and a little painful. Sleet. Sleet. Do you remember how to say the expression that means to be covered in ice, especially for roads, bridges, and other surfaces that we drive on? Ice over. Ice over. Let's try the word that refers to the loud boom sounds that you hear during storms. Thunder. Thunder. What about the adjective that we use when we feel uncomfortable, especially in high humidity situations? Muggy. Muggy. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the expression that means a temperature that is under the freeze point. Below freezing. Below freezing. Another one. What about the expression that means the temperature with the strength of the wind factored in? Wind chill. Wind chill. Do you remember how to say the expression for a temperature that is under 0? It could be 0 Celsius or 0 Fahrenheit. Below 0. Below 0. And finally, do you remember how to say the expression that means a rainstorm or other negative weather slowly going away? Clear up. Clear up. Well done. See you next time. Bye. Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is extreme heat. Extreme heat. Extreme heat. The expression extreme heat means a very, very high temperature. This is a weather expression. So when we talk about extreme heat, it's usually because it's a dangerous weather situation. Here's an example. If you're old or have a bad heart, do not go out in the extreme heat. If you're old or have a bad heart, do not go out in the extreme heat. If you are old or have a bad heart, do not go out in the extreme heat. Frost. 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 Frost refers to the very, very thin layer or pieces of ice or snow that gather on surfaces when it's very cold. So for example, on a very cold morning, you might see a little bit of frost on plants in your garden. You might also see frost on glasses, cold glasses in restaurants. So frost is how we describe that very, very thin layer of ice on something. Here's an example. If it gets too cold, the frost will kill my flowers. If it gets too cold, the frost will kill my flowers. If it gets too cold, the frost will kill my flowers. Become cloudy. Become cloudy. Become cloudy. Become cloudy is a weather-related expression that means the weather is going to change. So perhaps it's sunny or maybe it's rainy, and then later in the day, it's going to become cloudy. So this means the weather is going to change from one condition to a cloudy condition. Here's an example. After the cold front comes through, it will become cloudy. After the cold front comes through, it will become cloudy. After the cold front comes through, it will become cloudy. Cyclone. 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 A cyclone is a major weather event. A cyclone is like a tornado. It's a spinning storm, but with water too. So there's water and there's air, creating a very dangerous and wet situation. Here's an example. Tropical cyclone track. Tropical cyclone track. Tropical cyclone track. Drawing. 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 A drawing is a piece of artwork. Someone created the artwork by using a pen or pencil or some other thing you can use with your hand like this, not a brush, but something like a pen or a pencil to create an image. Here's an example. I will look at drawings at a museum. I will look at drawings at a museum. I will look at drawings at a museum. Sculpture. 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 A sculpture is a work of art. Sculptures are figures of usually people, perhaps animals, or other important objects in a culture. And we can make sculptures by creating things with our hands, molding things. We can also use tools to make rock sculptures, so we can chip away at pieces of rock or other materials to create these forms. Here's an example. The museum hosted many marble sculptures. The museum hosted many marble sculptures. The museum hosted many marble sculptures. Author. 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 An author is the person who wrote something. So when we talk about the author of a book, that means the person who wrote the book. We can have the author of a news article or the author of a blog. The writer of something is the author. Here's an example. The author of the book is unknown. The author of the book is unknown. The author of the book is unknown. Actor. 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 An actor is someone who plays in movies. Traditionally, the word actor is used to talk about males who portray other characters in movies, though these days you might also hear women using actor to talk about themselves as well. Here's an example. The actor is memorizing his lines. The actor is memorizing his lines. The actor is memorizing his lines. Actress. 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 An actress is a woman who plays characters in plays and movies and so on. So actress is traditionally the word that's used to talk about women who do this job, but you might also hear some women using actor these days too. Here's an example. The guest actress gave a terrible performance. The guest actress gave a terrible performance. The guest actress gave a terrible performance. Director. 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 The director role is usually like the person who is supervising or the person who is in charge of making decisions for a company or for a movie or who has some kind of creative control of the situation. Here's an example. He's the director of my company. He's the director of my company. He's the director of my company. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the word that refers to a very, very high temperature, so high it's dangerous? Extreme heat. Extreme heat. And how to say the word for the very, very thin layer of ice or snow that appears when it's cold. Frost. Frost. What about the expression that means the weather is going to change and there are going to be clouds in the sky later? Become cloudy. Become cloudy. Do you remember how to say the dangerous weather condition that is a storm of quickly moving air and water? Cyclone. Cyclone. Let's try the word for the type of artwork that we create with a pencil and paper, creating images in this way. Drawing. Drawing. What about the word for the type of artwork that usually features a person, perhaps an animal, or another culturally important object? We can make it by molding something with our hands or by chipping away at rocks and other materials. Sculpture. Sculpture. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the word we use to talk about the person who wrote something, like a book or an article. Author. Author. Another one. What about the word we use traditionally for men who play characters in movies and in plays? Actor. Actor. Do you remember how to say the word traditionally used for women who play characters in movies and plays? Actress. Actress. And finally, do you remember how to say the role that's at the top of a creative project or perhaps a movie or also perhaps a company making creative and important decisions? Director. Director. Well done. See you next time. Bye. Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia. Welcome to the 2000 Core English Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is story. 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 A story is something that happened to you or something that happened to a character, like in a movie or in a book. Every day we have little things or big things that happen to us, and when we tell these to other people, they become stories. Here's an example. A drama has a serious storyline. A drama has a serious storyline. A drama has a serious storyline. Plot. 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 The plot of a story is the sequence of things that happen. So the plot tells us all of the key information, and it can be very dramatic, it can be exciting, it can maybe be funny. So the plot is the sequence of key things that happen in the story. Here's an example. The mystery movie had an intriguing plot. The mystery movie had an intriguing plot. The mystery movie had an intriguing plot. Pop music. Pop music. Pop music. You can think of pop music as popular music. So pop music is usually very upbeat, it's kind of fun, it's easy to listen to, lots of people can listen to it. Pop music these days is usually what you hear on the radio. Here's an example. Pop music is a popular music genre started in the 1950s. Pop music is a popular music genre started in the 1950s. Pop music is a popular music genre started in the 1950s. Singer. 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 A singer is a person who sings. So in a band, the singer is the person who is saying the words, singing the words to the song. Maybe there's no band in some situations, and there's just one solo artist who is a singer. So singers are very, very common. Here's an example. The singer has a beautiful voice. The singer has a beautiful voice. The singer has a beautiful voice. Jazz. 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 Jazz is a very popular type of music. In jazz, there are usually acoustic instruments played, so that means non-electric instruments. And the key with jazz is improvisation. So the musicians can make their own kinds of music together in a very fluid way. Here's an example. The trumpet is a valuable instrument in jazz music. The trumpet is a valuable instrument in jazz music. The trumpet is a valuable instrument in jazz music. Rock music. Rock music. Rock music. Rock music is often a kind of aggressive and often as well upbeat, but sometimes also kind of sad at times, depending on the song. This is a certain type of music that tends to use lots and lots of electric sounds, so like electric guitars and maybe electric pianos as well, and lots of heavy drumming. Here's an example. The man is performing rock music. The man is performing rock music. The man is performing rock music. Classical music. Classical music. Classical music. Classical music is a very old style of performing music. So we use acoustic instruments to do this, and we usually use sheet music. So they're very, very long pieces that sound beautiful and have lots of string instruments, as well as other woodwind instruments too. Here's an example. Classical music makes my anxiety calm down. Classical music makes my anxiety calm down. Classical music makes my anxiety calm down. Rap music. Rap music. Rap music. Rap music is a more modern style of music. In rap music, wordplay is definitely one of the big focuses. In rap music, it's almost like spoken poetry at times. It can be a little bit aggressive. It can be sometimes sad, depending on the artist. But in rap music, a lot of wordplay features in the songs. Here's an example. My daughter only listens to rap music. My daughter only listens to rap music. My daughter only listens to rap music. Band. 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 A band is a group of musicians that come together to play music together, and the band usually has a name. So perhaps in your country, you know some very popular bands, groups of musicians, and usually a singer, or maybe two, that come together to create their own type of music. Here's an example. 3 bands played in a free concert in the park. 3 bands played in a free concert in the park. 3 bands played in a free concert in the park. Earphones. 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 Earphones are small devices we put into our ears so we can listen to music or podcasts or other things, maybe books on tape, for example. So earphones are different from headphones. Headphones go over your ears. Earphones go inside. Here's an example. These earphones hurt my ears. These earphones hurt my ears. These earphones hurt my ears. Let's review. I'm going to describe a word or phrase in English. See if you can remember it. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say the word we use when something happens to us and we tell that to someone else? It can also be what happens in a movie or in a book, and then we read that. Story. Story. And how to say the sequence of events in the story. It can feel dramatic, it can feel funny, it can be romantic, and so on. Plot. Plot. What about the expression that we use for popular music that's usually upbeat, pretty happy, and often on the radio? Pop music. Pop music. Do you remember how to say the word for the person who sings the songs? Singer. Singer. Let's try the word for the genre of music that uses a lot of improvisation. Jazz. Jazz. What about the word for the type of music that often features electric guitars, maybe electric piano, and some maybe aggressive drumming? Rock music. Rock music. Now, let's see if you remember how to say the expression for the very old style of music that's played with string instruments, brass instruments, and woodwind instruments, and that's very, very long when you listen to it. Classical music. Classical music. Another one. What about the genre of music that uses a lot of really interesting wordplay and heavy beats? Rap music. Rap music. Do you remember how to say the word for a group of musicians that comes together to create music, usually with a special name? band, band. And finally, do you remember how to say the device that you put into your ears to listen to music or other audio programs? Earphones. Earphones. Well done. See you next time. Bye.